The first few weeks of school are so important in the classroom. This is when you set the tone for the school year and when you teach your students exactly the way you want your classroom to run. Today we're chatting about classroom procedures that you need to be teaching during the first week of school. If you're new here, I'm Rachel Vincent and I love sharing ways to help teachers simplify their classrooms and their teaching. So one of the first things that I teach on the first day of school is an attention getter. Are such a huge thing to do during the first week of school. It helps your students get to know each other, helps you get to know your students, and really start to build that classroom community. I know I need a way to get my students' attention when they are working on something, and so I start off with a simple super focus and my students go shoo. And so the reason I start with that one is because I want them to get in the habit of taking their eyes and putting them on me. So I just simply say, super focus, and they all go shoo and focus in on me. I talk about how it's important when I say this, I need their focus, I need their attention because I'm going to be given directions or we're transitioning or I have something that I need to tell them. And so it is one of the first things that we practice on the first day of school. The next thing I actually teach my students is what to do with their papers. Because when they come in on the first day of school, they have a coloring page and a word search. And so I need them to have a place for it to go so that they're not fiddling with it as I start the day and we are learning all the things. Whatever your system may be, I have a simple classwork folder that they just put papers in and they keep it in a bucket on their table. And so we go through that procedure of how they're supposed to put the paper in and put the folders in their bucket just so that their papers have a place to go. And that way, if they finish something early, they know where to go to get that coloring sheet or whatever they have put in the folder. Honestly, that's really the only one I teach until the time comes for me to teach them how to turn something in. So I'm a very firm believer in not teaching the procedure until you actually need the procedure. On the first day, typically they're just putting papers in their folder, but maybe later in the week there's something I want to collect from them. So that's when I teach them where our turn-in bin is, how to put papers in there, so on and so forth. One of the next things I teach is listening and answering questions. How to show that you are an active listener with head nods and maybe like the hand signal for I agree, different things like that. I'm teaching that as I am introducing class rules and expectations and other things like that. I'm also teaching them how to answer questions. Again, I'm teaching them I agree with the Y hand signal, or maybe that hand signal to I have an answer is just to raise your hand. Whatever your procedure, your steps for that, that's what I'm teaching on the first day of school. Some of the first things I teach again are the attention getter, where to put the papers, and listening and answering. Of course, in between all that, I'm mixing in reading a book, and that goes with the listening. One of the first books I read is Our Class as a Family, and so I want to make sure that I'm teaching them how to listen, how to be active listeners. How does Miss Vincent know that you're listening to the book? And in fourth grade, we talk about the difference between actually listening and hearing. We can hear words being read, but we're not actually listening to the words. Again, these procedures are mingled in with read alouds, with different activities, with just different things, the fun activities that you want to do during the first week of school. As you're thinking about which of those activities you want to do, think about which procedures are you going to teach with that. Team building activities are such a huge thing to do during the first week of school. It helps your students get to know each other, helps you get to know your students, and really start to build that classroom community. Before we start our first partner or group work activity, I'm going to be teaching my partner or group work expectations. And so one way to make that really easy is I use the word partners as the acronym for the different expectations for partner work. And I do the same thing with groups so that they know that each letter stands for something. And I post these in the classroom so they don't have to memorize it, but they have it to reference. We do use these all week long, and then they become our expectations throughout the year as we get into more partner and group work. Something that I didn't do very well last year that I'm really going to focus in this year is community supplies. I think I sort of forgot the fact that students really haven't had the opportunity to use a lot of community supplies in recent years, and so I think I failed to really set those expectations up last year, which resulted in lots of broken and uncared for things. So one of the things I'm gonna hit really hard during the first week of school this year is how we use and treat and get and put away all those supplies, especially clipboards. I think almost every single one of my clipboards ended up broken last year, and so I'm getting a new set. So I wanna make sure that they're cared for so that they will last for years to come. Of course, procedures like lining up, hallway expectations, using the bathroom, going to the cafeteria, going to recess, all those will be taught that day. But really, some of the ones I'm gonna focus a little bit more on this year are the ones inside the classroom. I personally think I dropped the ball a little bit with it last year, and so I really wanna set my students up for success this year. And so I wanna make sure that I hone in on how I'm teaching those, how students are practicing that, and really for the first probably 4 to 6 weeks of school, that's going to be my main focus, because I know that if I spend more time at the beginning focusing on those routines and procedures and expectations, that the rest of our year will run more smoothly. If you want a little more guidance on creating your plans and how to exactly teach these procedures during the first week of school, I've got you. My Kickstart Your School Year Blueprint will walk you through everything you need to know to really rock your first day of school, but honestly, it goes through the whole first week of school. From what procedures to teach, how to teach the procedures, different books, games, activities, everything to include that first week. Check out the link that's on your screen now to get that first week plan already off your to-do list.